Hello, it's Songbird Anna and welcome to my first video about the Autoharp, and it's called Things You Didn't Know About the Autoharp, and I'm hoping by the end of it I will have surprised you at some of the facts about this wonderful instrument. But first, before we get started, just to remind where you can find me on social media. On Twitter, you can find me at Anna Music By, and on Instagram, you can find me Songbird Anna 1. I share lots of videos of me singing and playing the Autoharp, and also always some interesting music facts. So let's get started. The question that I get asked the most is, what is that you are playing? This is an Autoharp. But it's not what you think. It's got 36 strings, but it's not a harp. And no, you can't put a big capo on it. And it's not a 12-string guitar either that's suddenly multiplied into 36. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Autoharp. So you might ask me, well, how does the Autoharp work? It's very clever, actually. So, as I say, 36 strings over 3 octaves. And along here, we have basically the chord bars. So each of these buttons represents a different chord. So on the top row, you've got all the basic main major chords. So A, D, G, C, F. There's a couple of flat chords here. On the middle run, you've got all the sevenths, and on the bottom, you've got all the minors. Underneath here, underneath each one of these, runs a piece of felt, which is basically being cut, bits have been cut out. So when you press that down, when you press the C down, what it's doing is dampening the strings that aren't in that chord. So that you'll find if you go individually, there are some not playing. If you play it all at once, you get the C. So I think the name Autoharp does confuse people, but it is nothing to do with the harp. It's not part of the harp family. And it's actually part of the Ziver family. That's where the designs has come from. So you might ask, what is a zither? A zither is a stringed instrument in which the strings do not extend beyond the actual sounding box. In a way, it looks like the body of a guitar, but without, of course, the neck. The big question is, where, when, and who invented the Autoharp? There is great debate about this, because there were two people that invented something very, very similar, almost at the same time. The first actually was a chap from Philadelphia. His name was Charles Ziver. He was actually a German immigrant, and he was awarded the patent in 1882 for the design of a musical instrument that included mechanisms similar to this, which basically muted down the strings, which I've just talked about. He named this instrument the Autoharp. However, across the pond, another chap called Carl Gutter, also German origin, he received the British patent in 1883 for an instrument that was built very closely, resembled the Autoharp. However, he called that the Volt Ziver. What was the Autoharp invented for? Well, I guess it's very difficult to pinpoint in 1882 perhaps what certainly Charles Ziver was trying to achieve. But the Autoharp, I'll be honest with you, I believe was designed as an accompanying instrument, so just an instrument part of a band. So it would sit next to a violin or a banjo or a guitar. It wasn't made as a solo instrument. So basically, like the violin would sit into an orchestra or a band. It was mainly used for folk, bluegrass and country. So I think that's where its origins come from. Interesting, some of the history, reading about the history of the Autoharp. In the USA, it became a very, very popular instrument because it is easy to play, and it was seen as an instrument for the whole family. Because it's far easier to press a chord than it is to start trying to play a violin or even a guitar. And they even had salesmen going around selling Autoharps door to door. The other interesting thing that I found when I was looking it up was there was a lot of pictures of the Autoharp, and they're old 1890s to 1910 photographs. You know, those photographs that your gran or great grandpa rooted out of their drawer, and it's of the family in a photography studio, and they often have husband and wife looking a bit po-faced, and there's usually a prop there. Funny enough, my great grandparents, there's a picture of them on a rocking horse. Well, that was just the photography studio's props. And so there is quite a lot of photographs, clearly studio photographs of men and women holding Autoharps, which were obviously clearly the props. So it was clearly seen as a really trendy item to have. The other interesting thing in the USA, it was used as an instrument to teach people harmonies. And you can see why. So if I press down again the chord C, you can hear there you've got lots of notes that you could use in a harmony. So it's easy to teach people then how to pick the harmony up. Who plays the Autoharp? Who has played the Autoharp? For us enthusiasts of the Autoharp, the first name would spring to mind would be June Carter. In fact, actually, the whole of the Carter family promoted the Autoharp, with Mabel possibly being the first one to introduce it. But it was played as an accompaniment, so alongside a banjo or a guitar. But June was, I believe, responsible for bringing the Autoharp to the forefront of it being an instrument on its own to the voice, and she did it so beautifully. And then there's been some other really interesting people that have also played the Autoharp. Did you know Janis Joplin played the Autoharp? And I found a picture of Bob Dylan. I can't believe that. And there's been also Dolly Parton, who used this wonderful white one in her concerts, one of her concerts, which was spectacular. She was all in white and the Autoharp was white. Then there's been also famously John Sebastian and Billy Connolly. But in latter years, it's certainly in the last 10 years, we have seen a big increase in people coming forward, especially female artists, and using it as a main instrument along with the voice. So that's been fantastic. The question I get asked so many times is, how do you tune it? With 36 strings, it must be a nightmare. It's not as bad as you think. So each of the strings, you can see here, has a running peg, if you want, a tuning peg at the top. And what we use is one of these, which is a tuning pin. And they basically just go into that, and you just move them very slightly to get the right pitch. And I use because you know, you have with the guitar you have these things that you stick on, but I found the easiest thing is actually to use a phone app. I think it's actually a piano tuning device app that I use. It's not that bad. The Autoharps don't go out of tune as quickly as the guitar, so it's very rare that in the middle of a performance you would hear it go out of tune. Very rare. So you tend to find if you tune it up at the beginning of the night, that is sufficient. And I always find the worst strings are the middle ones. So you can, out of the 36 strings, you might go through 15 of them, 20 of them that sound fine, 20 of them sound fine, and then the others you need to tune. So it isn't that bad. So how do you get the Autoharp to make a sound? It's strumming like strumming a guitar really, or picking a banjo. You could just use your fingers for a softer tone, and then you can go up and down, up, produce a bit more of a light, fluffy sound. Or you can use a guitar plectrum, okay? And I love using a guitar plectrum because what I like to do is actually get some rhythm out of an Autoharp. So, okay, it's fairly easy to do. Those were just 3 simple chords. And then the other option is to use like a banjo picks basically, and they are just little soft steel picks that go, I put them on 3 fingers, although I probably only really use 2, and then on the thumb it's like a banjo one. And I tend to use this for the strumming. So that's the strumming sound, and also getting these bass strings. I actually like them quite sharp and pointy. Some people actually file those down, because I like a fairly strong sound with the Autoharp. So what you can do with these little babies is produce something like this. So basically what I'm doing is I'm using these 2 fingers to pluck, and then I will use this for a bit of a bass and a beat. So that's how you play the Autoharp. So finally, I'm just going to tell you about the 2 different types of Autoharp, which I think is important to know because people probably don't know, but there are 2 different sorts. There's the chromatic, which is what I have, and there's the diatonic, and I'll explain them both. So the chromatic basically are the strings that are tuned to 12 note chromatic scale. So think about the piano and the black and white keys on the piano. Often they have 21 chords like this one does, and typically they play in as many as 7 different keys, and that is exactly the reason why I have a chromatic. I know I could have several different Autoharps, but I just find it easier to have one and a backup. But I play to sing, so I like to sing a lot of variety of songs, and they can be in all sorts of different keys. So for me, the chromatic is the best one. The diatonic Autoharp only plays in a limited number of related keys, usually 3 or less, and have strings tuned to the 7th, 8th or 9th note found in a major scale. Again, think about the piano and think about all the white keys plus one or two of the black keys. The picture that you're seeing now is a diatonic Autoharp that is in C and G. So that, I hope you've enjoyed your little insight in things that you probably didn't know about the Autoharp. I will be back and I'm going to come back and tell you about things like where you can buy them, how much you can spend on them, and then some more basic techniques of playing the Autoharp. I hope you've enjoyed it. Bye. Thank you so much for watching my video of things you didn't know about the Autoharp. I will be back to give you some more advice about the Autoharp, but I also produce lots of videos on my YouTube channel, so please don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell if you want alerts of when either I go live or when I've posted a new video. I will see you all very soon.